Hey guys, this is Chris from Rekkid Talk. Doing another Vinyl Finds episode. I buy old Rekkids. This time I was buying old Rekkids at the Salvation Army. So the story was there's a town that's about 30 miles away from me. There's like, um, there's like the Salvation Army. There's a couple thrift stores. There's an antique mall next to it. And I try to go through there every few months or so, although I think it'd been about 6 months since I'd been there. So I'm going to the usual places. I'm basically finding the same stuff that's already there. Um, and so it's one of those things that it's um, like there's an antique mall that's next to the Salvation Army, and there's the guy that always has the box of incredibly overpriced records. I don't quite get what these people are doing with the antique malls with their overpriced records. Is it just like a storage facility for them? And if they happen to sell something at a high price, that's great. Because I'm not quite seeing the economics of when I go back uh, month after month, year after year, and the same old shit is sitting there, and it doesn't seem like anybody's buying it. Okay, well, let's talk about what I did buy. The very last place, so I hadn't gotten anything except a pound of barbecue because there's a good barbecue place in this town. So it wasn't going to be a failure. But I stopped at the Salvation Army. I figured I'll just take a look. This place never has anything good. But then I noticed they had probably a few hundred 45s. None of them were in sleeves. They were all just kind of like this. So there was like a bookshelf with like DVDs, and they were all just like jammed in there. I asked the guy working there how much they were, and he was like, 50 cents each. So I say, okay. So I spent some time looking through them. Nothing's in primo shape. Again, nothing had any sleeves. So all the generic white sleeves you're going to see in this are stuff that I provided. But I did notice that most of the stuff there was like mainstream 80s pop and rock. And I think a lot of it all came from the same person because a lot of them had either the name Tina Collins or the initials TC or DC written on them. I'm sure it wasn't everything in the collection. Let me show you the oddballs first. So the real outlier in the collection is one of these Russian Soviet Melodia records. So this is a 33 RPM. You may remember several months ago I showed an LP on the Melodia label that I bought, which ended up being a compilation of some Russian jazz guy from the 30s and 40s. So again, I find this. I don't really know what I'm buying, but I figured it's cheap. I'll give it a shot. Do some research. The four songs on here end up being from the soundtrack from a Russian movie from 1974 called A Lover's Romance. I haven't seen the movie obviously, but it was like a musical romantic drama. So it sounds kind of sappy. And apparently the main person on this soundtrack and on this record is a Soviet and Russian rock singer named Alexander Gradsky. I'll be honest, this stuff here was pretty sappy, schmaltzy, sort of pop music. Apparently, I haven't looked into it, but apparently he has stuff that's more rock based. He was born in 1949, did pass away last year in 2021. He has been called the Soviet Union's most popular recording artist. He is known to have, I'm just reading from my notes, he's known to have a 3.5 octave range vocal and has performed with John Denver. Okay, the other thing that was an outlier was, and it's not nearly as much of an outlier, but we had this Dolly Parton record where it was mostly rock, not country. But as you can see, there's the Goodwill price tag on there for 49 cents. Of course, this wasn't a Goodwill, this was the Salvation Army. So this poor record has made at least 2 tours of duty through the thrift stores. So the A side's called Heartbreaker, the B side's called Sure Thing. And so at some point somebody got this from a Goodwill and they've given it up. I'm going to go through the rest of the stuff fairly quickly to not bore you too long. We've got the SOS band on the Taboo label, and Take Your Time, Do It Right, Part 1 and Part 2. I think sometimes with the disco singles, they kind of broke it up over the two sides. On the Atco label, we've got Metal with Gary Newman. I'm going to go ahead and probably not take the rest of these out. I've noticed that unlike with like indie and punk stuff, the labels usually aren't that interesting, especially when they're major label. I got a couple of Blondie singles, Chrysalis label. So this is The Tide Is High. And then we have Call Me. There was a Heart of Glass there as well, but it was too beat up, so I didn't buy it. I would like to get that one. I would really like to get Rapture, as that's my favorite song. I now own my first Madonna record, so it's Who's That Girl on the Sire label with a song called White Heat on the back. Almost as good as Ciccone Youth. We got some Belinda Carlisle, I Get Weak. I remember my friends and I used to make fun of this song. We changed the lyrics to I Feel Cheap because we were immature. So there's some Belinda Carlisle. We got some Wham featuring George Michael, Careless Whisper, George Michael and the other guy with a instrumental version of Careless Whisper. We've got Everything She Does, Little Thing She Does Is Magic by the Police on the A&M label with some song called Shambell on the backside. Was pretty crappy song written by Andy Summers, so maybe he got a little bit of royalties off of that being on the flip side. We got some Men at Work on the Columbia label, Who Can It Be Now? A dumb song on the back called Anyone for Tennis. Little bit of Southern rock. We got some 38 Special, Caught Up in You, with a song called Firestarter on the back. On the Epic label, we've got some REO Speedwagon, Don't Let Him Go. More on the Columbia label, more Cheese. We got, and a lot of these records, these are the sort of things that a lot of these groups I would never buy a full album of. They're just not things I like enough, but the hit is kind of fun, and I like 45s are fun. You may have noticed I'm getting more 45s recently. This is Scandal featuring Patti Smythe, not Patti Smith, Patti Smythe, the Warrior, different person. On the Portrait label, we have Aldo Nova, who I believe is Canadian, with Fantasy. Aldo Nova is not somebody I would buy. I can't imagine I would ever buy an Aldo Nova album. I guess maybe if it was $1. Eye of the Tiger, Survivor. So we've got the Warrior and Eye of the Tiger. So I'm ready to become Rocky. And then let's leave the real cheese to the end. We got some hair metal power ballads. We've got Carrie by Europe. And on the RCA Victor label, we of course have Lita Ford with Kiss Me Deadly. Oh, and I forgot to mention it earlier, so you're thinking I'm buying these for 50 cents. So there's 18 of them. When I go up to pay for them, the guy's like, how many are there? I say there's like 18. He's like, just give me $5 for them. I'm like, okay. That works out to be 27 point something cents per record. So slightly more than a quarter per record. I guess I could have gone back and gotten 2 more and made it an even quarter per record. Then he asked me what I was planning on doing with them. I said, well, I was going to clean them and play them. And he looked surprised. He thought, oh, we hardly ever sell records. And I think usually when people are buying them, they're just using them for some sort of art project. Like maybe I was going to make a bowl out of them or something. But no, I'm actually going to listen to them occasionally. Again, a few of them are on the pretty crackly, scratchy side. I was trying to leave behind the ones that were hopeless, but since they were so cheap, I'll gamble more when they're like a quarter a piece than when they're $1 or $2 a piece. So there are some singles. We're almost at 10 minutes, so let's stop this video now.